Howdy, and welcome to the introductory lecture on cybersecurity risk assessment and management. This first week of the course, we're going to be laying some groundwork. So some of these lectures may seem a little bit not sequential, or maybe they don't seem to interface well, but I want you to first of all understand what our approach to risk is going to be in this class. So our learning objectives are stated here. Risk is inherent through all aspects of cybersecurity, and we have to talk about what that means. We're going to understand the 4 responses to risk. We're going to talk about the process of the NIST risk management framework, and actually we're going to be laying the groundwork because we'll be talking about this through quite a bit of the semester. And we're going to talk about the NIST SP 800 documents. NIST is the National Institute of Standards and Technology, which is part of our Department of Commerce. Under a law passed in 2003, the United States Congress delegated the responsibility for cybersecurity standards to the Department of Commerce, and specifically NIST. So NIST came up with a lot of this documentation, which we'll look at another time. Anytime you want to Google, you'll find out there's probably about 150 or so guidebooks that they have published. But first of all, I want to motivate you for this class and make you understand why risk is so important to cybersecurity. You'll hear people say risk assessment, risk management, it's like a soft skill, and I prefer to call it a non-technical skill. So let's look at how this is going to play out. We are going to look at a document that lays out how important risk is. So you can go to this document, NIST Special Publication 800-181, and anytime you see NIST SP or Special Publication 800, that is related to cybersecurity. And what this document does is it lays out the educational framework. This is really great. If you have a job that you want to do, you can go find it here in this voluminous document, and you're going to find out what knowledge and skills and abilities you need to develop. And then in a companion document, you can find out things such as certifications, what you need for an entry level, a more advanced level. But basically, what this document begins with is 7 work role detail listings, 7 overarching categories: securely provision, operate and maintain, as you can see here, oversee and govern, protect and defend, analyze, collect and operate, and investigate. And then it takes these 7 overarching categories, and it builds on knowledge descriptions, tasks, skills, and abilities, and relates these to work roles. So, categories, specialty areas, work roles, KSAs, and tasks. And it lays everything out. Now, it's going to be a little hard for me to explain all this in a video, so you're going to need to spend some time on this too. And I want you to take some time with this because I want you to tell me what job you're aiming for, or what career I should say. So for instance, and here's how this breaks out again, the category, the specialty areas, and the like. Let's pick a job. So first of all, you take your first workforce categories and it tells you exactly what the descriptions are, which is quite nice, right? But then you have a job such as securely proficient. One of the specialty areas is risk management, and it tells you what that specialty area is described as, okay? So you go through this for each of the 7 categories. Then you take it down further and say, not only is this specialty area risk management, but there is something called an authorizing official or designating representative or security control assessor, and it assigns it a work role ID, and it gives you the description. And then further on in this document, you can take that and see there's many of these work roles, and you can map those into your different task of what that work role requires, the knowledge, the skills, and the abilities. Okay? As I said, this is a little bit tough to show on a video. However, I'm confident that you can look this up, I'm going to get down here to, you go past all this. Let's say you're going to find a, let me find a job. Program manager, executive cyber leadership. I want to go to the risk. Let's say you want to be a cyber instructor. Here's your work role ID. Here's your specialty area, and it breaks it down into the tasks the job performs, the knowledge, skills, and abilities you will need. You want to be a curriculum developer. Here's what you need to do. You want to be a compliance manager, a privacy officer. Here's what you need to do. Okay? You want to be a legal advisor. So I want you to spend some time looking at this when this part of the video is over and get familiar with this, because I want you to be able to tell me what job and career you want and how you see the knowledge, skills, and abilities. This is going to help you out. You go to a companion document here, NIST IR 8193, and this document takes and says, okay, now for each of those jobs, what's your education, what's your training, what's your experiential learning, how do you do continuous learning, and what credentials and certifications should you have? And maps that into entry, intermediate, and advanced jobs. So this is great. This is basically a roadmap that says, what is the career you want, the job you want, how are you going to get there? And these documents will you can find online, or you can find on eCampus that I've downloaded them. So let's see if we can find one. So for instance, I want to be in risk management. I want to be a security control assessor. I click on that. This tells me the education for the entry, the intermediate, and the advanced, education, training, credentials, and certifications that I need. Now, this is not just jobs about risk. This is jobs, the totality of cybersecurity workforce. We have a projected shortfall in this country of 2 million jobs by 2020. So NIST put together this. Many would complain in too much detail, but you can extrapolate what you want, but it helps you set the roadmap. So as we talk about this, I want you to think, where does risk fit in? And if you just do a search on the word risk, it appears 134 times, okay? It does things like risk assessments. There's a task description, participate in risk governance process to develop security risk mitigations and input. Risk assessments are very important. We'll be doing this class. And another one is the privacy impact assessments. I have said for some time, and this isn't an original thought, but that the tipping point in cybersecurity is going to be privacy. And now we see this coming about because of the General Data Protection Regulation and other in the EU, but also other things happen in the United States that emphasizes the privacy impact. So for instance, here's the task that a risk person associated with risk does, okay? And you can see these I've just pulled out, right? It talks about risk specialty areas. For instance, if you're securely provisioned, it's management. If you want to do protect and defend, it's vulnerability assessment and management. I've just extrapolated some of this here. And I've got the slides. I'm going to post the slides for you here. Now, another thing you need to know, and especially if this is your first cybersecurity introduction to NIST, is we will talk about cybersecurity in 5 aspects: identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. And by that, identify means, do we even know what our systems are there? So we have systems, we have assets, we have software, we have hardware. We change our network by someone maybe possibly using a USB. It's a dynamic. Can we first of all identify everything we're trying to further protect, detect, respond, and recover? And can we manage that risk? And I've put that in red, but also protect, detect, respond, recover. There's always inherent risk. I'm getting ready to write a paper. Today's a special day for me because 1 year ago, this was me. I was in my house flooded. I was in, as you can see, that's my boots. I'm still on my pajama bottoms. And that's my backyard. And to give you some perception, that top is a bench. You can see the top of a solar light. You can see the amount of water that was around my house. And you might think, what does this have to do with risk? Well, my house had never flooded. And what I tell people now is everything I have learned about risk and incident response, I have honed from being in Hurricane Harvey's flooding, because what it taught me was, even though we properly assess risk, there's a point where you can't do anything about it. I did not assess that I would be likely to flood, as my house had never ever flooded in the almost 60 years since it had been built. I guess it is 60 years this year. It had never ever flooded. So historically, let's think about this. I said, if it hasn't flooded, it's not going to flood. What are my risks? I brought the water. I brought the batteries. I had enough flashlights in case I lost power, for, the whole neighborhood. I had snacks. I had everything set up. And when the flood hit, none of that did any good. And in reality, I couldn't have done anything to prevent my house from flooding. I don't have a picture of my house flooding, but I do have a picture shot from my front. That was my former car that was totaled, and this was my front yard. And again, to give you a perception, there are flower pots that you cannot see. And these were neighbors who were evacuating, walking to try to get to higher land. They're carrying their kids and their dogs, and there was nothing I could do to help them. Now, my point in telling you this is this changed my view on risk. Totally changed my view on risk, and it also changed my view on incident response, for which I'm getting a patent. So risk is very close to me, and I'm going to use some of these lessons. I'm actually writing a paper on this, everything I ever learned about incident response from Hurricane Harvey, and how it altered my notions of risk. So I'm going to end this video. I've given you an introduction. I hopefully motivated you. What's your dream cybersecurity career? Can you identify that work role? What KSAs will you need? How does understanding risk impact that career? Now, when you've looked at SP 800-181, check out NIST IR 8193. I want you to be thinking now. I want you to understand my job as a professor of practice is to make you productive from your first day on the job. So doing that, this is how I'm going to start. I want you to begin to think, no matter what cybersecurity job you're going to have, what do you need to know about risk? And then we'll carry on. Thank you. Stick with me. We'll have the next video coming up shortly.